Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for coming this morning, and a massive thank you to the museum. I used to be a trustee here many moons ago, and had the privilege of helping employ Tony Butler, if anyone knows him, and he's been instrumental in changing the whole concept here, and it's absolutely fantastic, so that's really good. And also thank you very much to Hannah. I would scale on a 1 to 10, I would put Creative Mornings as a 10 as a networking group. And I'll give my... yeah. And I mean that because the genuine people come here, and also because I've got affinity with creativity, it's my place to be, which is really good. Okay, so let me just get my notes up. Sorry, just one second. Okay, if that had really happened, that would have been quite scary, wouldn't it? Yeah. That didn't happen. I'm totally prepared. I know what I'm doing. You can rest assured, and you can be relaxed now. But it's just one of those things, isn't it? For preparation, you need to really think ahead. So if I hadn't thought about the tech, wow, that would have been terrible. If I hadn't thought about the reaction to the audience, if I hadn't got it right, that would have been terrible as well. But the thing is, quite fundamentally, I care about you, and that's genuine. I care about what I'm going to tell you this morning. You will go away, not only with a little bit more knowledge, but maybe a little spring in your step. You know, you will have felt that the 1.5 hours I'm going to be talking for will be of benefit to you. And that's important. But do you know what I found this morning? I thought about this morning, only this morning, I thought about, what would be a great introduction? And I found a great introduction. That was a sub-introduction. I've got another introduction. So there's a chap behind there called Joel. And Joel is a lovely guy who I only met half an hour ago. But Joel can play the piano. So give a cheer if you'd like to hear Joel play the piano. Now, hang on. Let's start again. Give a cheer for Joel if you think you'd like to hear him play the piano. And now, for one time only, I'd like to announce the magnificent Joel to play his favourite tune. Yeah. Joel, just before you go, so is that the biggest audience you've played to?
Yeah, I think I've only played for like 5 people before.
Fantastic.
So, something different.
So we've created an experience for you this morning, haven't we?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much again. Okay. So what I've tried to illustrate there, I didn't know Joel could play the piano, but it's about being observant when you're doing a talk and taking things from your environment. So let's talk about fear of public speaking, which is really interesting. So I'm not going to embarrass anyone. I am really. No, I'm not going to embarrass anyone. But who are the 3 10s in the audience? Do you want to pop your hand up if you're a 10s? Right, excellent, excellent. So what I would say is, did you put a tick? All right, okay. So it's always good to learn from people, and I would suggest is those people will be very good to learn from. And also, obviously, they've got the confidence as well. But let's just think about public speaking. So if we think of fear of clowns, anyone got fear of clowns? Yeah? My eldest daughter, she actually used to scream when she saw clowns. It was really quite traumatic for her. What about snakes? Anyone got fear of snakes? No? No, you probably wouldn't, no. There's around about 35 to 40,000 species of snakes, but only about 20 of them are deadly. So you could almost say that's an irrational fear, couldn't you? And that's exactly the same with public speaking. Why do we fear public speaking? I've spoken to a couple of you, or 3 or 4 of you this morning, about that you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3. And why is that? Well, a lot goes back to our school days. A lot goes back to our parenting, how we're brought up, and the environment we were raised in. So there's a lot of psychology in it. But fundamentally, when we boil it down, it's about fear of being embarrassed, fear of being exposed, fear of making mistakes. And all those are irrational fears. And the reason those are irrational fears is because we all make mistakes. We all do things wrong. We don't get things right. And that is what warms us to each other, because we don't actually get everything right all of the time. So what we need to think about is, how do we overcome that fear? And that's what I'll be going through this morning, looking at a few skills and techniques we can all do. I used the word there, skill. So the word skill indicates that it's something that it can be learnt, and that is true. Not everyone is born a fantastic speaker. But now Joel, who came up here to play the piano, he now might go and play the piano in front of a bigger crowd, because he's now had that experience. And it's the same for us. The more we practice and the more we flex our muscles, the better we get at it. I don't know about you, but I'd much, much prefer to see a speaker who tripped over their words, didn't get it spot on, but was authentic. And that really matters to me. That really matters to me. So, we're talking about treasure this morning. It's about unveiling your treasure, about finding your treasure. And the thing about treasure is really interesting, and I have a prop. This is from 1722 from eBay. And in it are a load of jewels. And these are genuine, actually, so I have got an arm guard outside. And these jewels represent you. And those jewels, for me, they're about your uniqueness. They're about your voice. And it's quite interesting. Yesterday, I was speaking to someone about public speaking, and I said, "Why don't you do public speaking?" She said, "Well, I'm South African, and I don't think people like my accent." I said, "That is the beauty of you. That is what makes you." And behind being South African, she's got a whole story as well. So your other jewels are your experience. You know, think about the experience you've had in life. Think about your childhood. Probably in my case, I probably won't. Think about all different things that you've done in life, the different jobs, the different people you've met. Think about your experiences. Think how you reacted to things. Think about the people you know. All that is a wealth of jewellery. All that's a wealth of jewels that you can bring to any talk, and which makes every single one of us unique. So what I'd love it is that when we give a talk next time, we bring something of ourselves into it, and we think of something that is totally unique to us. Already this morning I've met some wonderful people, and I've had a bit more of an in-depth conversation. And through that, I've learned so much about people. And it was a really interesting conversation I had with Laura, and because we were talking about work and how, particularly when you run your own business, how the lines may come blurred. So what's pleasure, what's work? But if you love your job, it doesn't really matter. And I think this is a great experience here because we love it and we enjoy it. And this is what life is about. So for me, work and life and home life, they're all entwined. And that's the same as our public speaking. Our public speaking should be something we do all the time because there's so many applications for it. You know, it can be business networking. It can be, you might want to do a sales pitch, or you just might want to speak to a group of people. And all those things really can elevate who people think you are. And I don't mean to put yourself on a pedestal. I'm not talking to you, Tony Robbins of the world. What I'm talking about is giving yourself, showing how unique you are. So I train public speaking, and at the moment I'm doing quite a number of executives at the moment, and we're going through how to do things. And it's really interesting because the confidence level is the same for everybody. And particularly with executives, because what happens is you work here, and you might do some of the frontline stuff, and then you get the middle management, and then eventually you get to the top of the pile and you're the CEO of a company. Do you change? Well, you might change a bit, but you still might not have that public speaking skill. And so you talk very formally how you think you're meant to talk. And that's what I'm working on with people at the moment, taking that formality away, but still speaking with conviction. One of the things we do is we talk about warm-up exercises. There's quite a few different ones. So is everyone up for doing a small warm-up exercise? Okay, I want you to lie on the floor. No, I don't really. No, there is one where you lie on the floor and you hold your diaphragm and you speak from your diaphragm. Okay, but we're not going to do that one today. What we're going to do, we're going to loosen up our face a little bit. Okay, so run with this. Okay, so the reason we're loosening up our face is so that our speech comes out more clearly. We're not going to struggle over words and we feel more relaxed. So on the way here today, I was singing in the car. So my voice was actually really exercised before I got here. But now I'd like you to exercise your muscles here, okay? So what we're going to start with is a gentle hum, right? I'll show you how to do a hum first. Right, so it's and your lips are going to tickle a little bit and you're going to feel some small vibration. So if we can all do that. Okay, great. Now with that hum, you're going to take it up to your nose. So you're going to sort of hum towards your nose. Hum towards your nose. Okay, come back down. You're back in your mouth. You're back in the. And now you're chewing a little bit of chewing gum. So. But now the chewing gum's getting bigger. It's a lot bigger now. So there's a big lump of chewing gum now. Right, the chewing gum's gone now. Unfortunately, you swallowed it. I think you'll be okay. But now you've got toffee in your mouth, so the toffee's sticking to your teeth and everything. So try and get our toffee and hum at the same time, please. Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for taking part. That wasn't really an exercise, I just went, you look silly, really. Yeah. No, it was. And the idea behind it was very much around, just loosening up your mouth a little bit. So that's what we do. So I think for me, there's really three elements. There's three elements that I think we can learn how to be better public speakers. And I can learn all the time because before I came here, I looked at quite a few of your videos to see how you had done this. They were all very good. And I thought, I've got a hard act to follow here. So many of you here. So if I was to ask the question, when do you think this speech I'm doing today, this talk, began? When was it? Roughly. Was it a week ago?
When you found out you were doing it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Excellent. Two brilliant answers. So 30 years ago, because I'm 35 now. And what's that? Hey. All right, 40, but that's as far as I'm going to go. All right. Okay. So yeah, it began months ago when I was speaking to Hannah. And the reason, I don't know if your mind works this way, but if I get a concept or an idea, I like to think about it for a time. Before I put anything on paper at all, I like that concept and idea to develop. So over the last, how long ago was it?
A good few months.
Yeah, a good few months. I've been thinking about it. But also, because I'm a lastminute.com person sometimes, it's been probably this week, the week before, where I've really galvanized my thoughts. I've got the advantage where obviously I know slightly what I'm talking about, so it makes it slightly easier. And you said 30 years, that's right. So what I've thrown into this talk today is my uniqueness. And you won't get another talk like this, not because I'm absolutely brilliant, but because I'm the only person who can deliver this talk this morning. And also, one technique, if you've got any leisure time or whatever, so I go running now, and I'm proud to say. I'm a runner, yeah. And can I just say, my BPM is that of an athlete. I've never had that in my life. I'm not an athletic person, so I'm dead chuffed. So when I go running, I put a concept in my mind, and I'm running and running and running. And by the end of it, I've developed that concept. And in this case, this is what I've been doing the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks. And again, I'll go back to my statement earlier, is because I care. Because I don't want to rob you of your time. I want you to go away this morning with something that you didn't know before, or you had a level of enjoyment. And just a show of hands, have you learnt anything yet? Oh, that's good. Excellent. So we're getting there, so I can go home now. No. Right, so let's look at 3 aspects of why we're fearful. So the first one I want to cover really is knowledge. And what I would say is, just on fear before we leave it, many people fear public speaking. So, for example, Richard Branson, he uses a technique, and what he uses are slides. He uses exercises, so he'll take you through an exercise, and it's to deflect from him speaking. And Gandhi as well, he was fearful of speaking, and there was a time he actually went into court and he couldn't finish his sentence. And his assistant had to finish the whole sentence for him and proceed to cover for him. So I think that what that tells me is that it's something that can pop up and down any time, and it can be depending on our mood as well. You know, sometimes we feel very confident, other times we don't. And we need to recognize that. If we gave a bad speech or a bad talk or a bad interaction, it really doesn't matter. And that was part of my introduction as well with the laptop. You know, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. No one's lost their life. But what we can do is we can give of our best. So let's talk about knowledge. You have excellent knowledge about your subjects. You've got even better knowledge about who you are. And it's that what you need to put into your talk. So let's look at knowledge. So, did I know where I was going to be speaking this morning? Yes, I did, because I know the museum. But yesterday, I came into here to check out. I wanted to look at the lighting. I wanted to look at where I was going to stand. And I wanted to know exactly so I could get in that zone. And you might think that might be over the top, but for me, it's not, because I owe it to you as an audience to give of my very, very best. Knowledge. So I bet you've all got stories. You know, if I was to ask you now, think of a story that makes you unique. I think there are. And I know some of you very well, so I know some of your stories. I wouldn't repeat them, by the way. No. No, but on a serious note, I know some of your stories, and they are fascinating. I love people, and I love hearing their stories. And when I hear a talk, if someone brings a little bit about themselves, it's wonderful. So, for example, I could tell you about myself that I've got 4 daughters, and I'm proud of that I've got 4 daughters. They range from the age of 11, 14, 33, and 37. Actually, I'm blowing it now. I'm not 40. Sorry. Right. But I'm so proud of them, and that's part of my uniqueness that makes me. And I love it, the fact is, sorry blokes in the room, I love it, the fact is they're daughters, because they test me. Yeah, more than test me. I have a 14-year-old, more than test me. And I love that, though. I love that. And they question me as well as an individual. So why have I told you that about my 4 daughters? It's quite irrelevant. Well, it's not. You now are having a bit more an affinity with me. You're probably feeling a bit sorry for me now as well. Not only emotionally, but financially as well. One of my daughters gets married next year. But I'm telling you that because I want you to know a bit about me. And I've only got one life. I've only got one life on this earth here, so I want you to know a lot about me. I want you to, I suppose, ultimately connect with me because I like people. So I'll just tell you a story, and what I'm going to do through the story is trying to connect with you. So this is quite a few years back. I've got an 11-year-old now, but she was about 1.5 at the time. My wife and I, we were sitting downstairs, and we had a baby monitor on upstairs, and there was an odd sound. There was a really odd sound came through that monitor. And through that monitor, it was a gurgling sound. It was very odd, and we looked at each other, my wife and I, who were sitting in the front room watching the television. And my wife, first of all, went up, and then I heard her scream as she reached the top of the stairs. She got to the top of the stairs, and she was looking into the room, and I ran after her. And we saw the lifeless body of our child. And at that point, everything flashed before me. So I quickly grabbed her. Her body was clammy, it was hot, and I ran onto the front drive. I remember the thud of my feet hitting the tarmac outside, the harshness of the tarmac underneath my feet. And then it started to rain, and the rain was pouring on me, and I was still holding my daughter. I was holding my daughter there. And I thought, this is it. I thought, this is it. My wife then became composed, and she remembered that we had a good friend around the corner who was a doctor. So she ran around, I followed through barefoot, running as fast as I can. Many a thought going through my head at the time. And we arrived at the doctor. He strips her off. He stripped all the clothes off, and said she's having something called a febrile seizure. And all it was that her body was overheating. And the little mite, she closed her body down. And within minutes, she was revived. It was one time that you really thank everyone and everything for what you've got. She didn't die, and she's fine now. She's a very vibrant 11-year-old. And there were other instances through our lives where, you think you're losing someone. But the reason I've shared that with you, I wanted you to connect with me, because that matters to me. I wanted you to connect with me. I wanted you to hear my feet on the tarmac. I wanted you to feel the rain. I wanted you to feel what I was feeling. And that's really what public speaking is about. You can go and give a talk about anything, but for me, I want you to give of yourself. So you will have loads and loads of stories. You'll have lots and lots of stories yourself, and probably not always as dramatic as that, but you need to tell those stories. You need to tell people about who you are. Because public speaking, that's what it's about, telling your story. And don't be afraid of telling your story. Because that one story you can tell to someone could change their lives. It's as big as that. Or that one story you can tell to people might enhance their life in some way. And that's what I like to do. Okay, so we've spoken very much about treasure, unearthing it, and really realizing what we've got in us. And we've spoken about knowledge. So the first one we spoke about was knowledge, how important knowledge is. So knowledge of where we're going to speak, knowledge of the audiences. And you'll notice that I spoke to many of you this morning. Not just the fact is that I can connect with you, but also get the mood of the room, which we did. What I'd like now to talk about is being confidently authentic. And the reason, it's almost like an oxymoron putting the two together, but there is a reason I put those together. Okay, there's a few techniques we can use to make us confident, but also authentic. So let's think about our eyes first of all. So I'm looking at you. How are you feeling? Okay. It's probably a little bit too long I've looked at you. Okay. Okay. And I'm scanning the room. No, that doesn't work either. My recommendation to you is deliver a sentence. So I'm going to talk to you, Adam, for this sentence. And then I'm going to talk to Hannah for the next sentence. But then I'm going to make sure I don't forget you at the back, or you right at the back. And I'm going to do that all the way through my talk. Not the fact is that I'm trying to be clever, but the fact is I want to connect with every single one of you. So that's our eyes. Think about a smile. Has anyone heard of the Duquesne smile? So this was a guy, 1834 actually, who discovered what is an authentic smile and what isn't. Okay. And he did thousands of faces he looked at to do this, and a really great study. But the Duquesne smile is where we lift our mouth up and we generally smile. And we smile up here and we smile up here, we get crow's feet. And we do that because we're genuine. It takes a lot of practice. I struggle with it, but it takes a lot of practice to actually get that real smile. So anyone tell me, is if we do that genuine smile, what does it convey?
Honesty.
Honesty, excellent. Anything else? Enthusiasm. Brilliant, yeah. Anything else? Empathy. Oh, great. I love that word. Empathy, yeah. So it shows all those things, and it shows we're being authentic and we're being genuine, doesn't it? The last trick or last skill I'll mention here is this one. That's a pause. Okay, so what happened when I did that pause? What was anyone thinking?
What's he going to say?
Sorry?
What are you going to say next?
What I'm going to say next. Brilliant. Excellent. It also emphasizes what I've just said as well. So it allows your brain time to absorb what I've just told you, which is so, so important. Okay, so let's talk about one other aspect. So we're going to talk about generosity. So we've had knowledge, we've had being confidently authentic, and now we're going to talk about generosity, because this, for me, is so important. So how can we be generous in a talk? Well, first of all, hopefully you're seeing that I'm giving you some ideas and thoughts and concepts free of charge, which is good. But the other thing, I'm being generous with me. I'm generously giving who I am. And by doing that, you're going to listen more. You know, we all must have heard talks where you can't quite understand what they're on about, or, you know, they're so well rehearsed that they're not really bothered. And what happens to us? What happens to our brain? It just switches off, doesn't it? You know, when I was in a corporate world, I used to be head of communications for Derbyshire Police, and there were lots of presentations there. And some of them, and it's not just that organisation, you just switched off really quickly. And I like one of the things they used to say, you probably can't read that from the back. Have you ever heard that in a talk?
Yeah.
Isn't that bad? Because what that's saying, you don't really matter over there. What's important for me is what's on this slide. This is so important. I need to tell you this. Yeah, I know it's going on a bit, but I have to tell you this because this is so important. No, it's not. No, it's not. What's important is what you're going to get from it. And how often do we have that? You know, I used to book speakers for events and still do on an occasion. And they say, oh, I need 35 minutes. And I say, well, you've got 20. Can't do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can do it. You can do it in 20. Because what I don't want is my audience being bored. Because if they're bored, then your message won't get across anyway. So what's the point? You know, public speaking is not a time thing. It's a quality thing. It's about those interactions. I went to a speech or a talk recently, and I won't say where it was, and the lady was talking about her new book. And she was talking about her book, and it was for 20 minutes. This was a morning event. This is a morning event. And after 30 minutes, what was happening to the audience? What do you think?
Drifting off.
Sorry?
Drifting off.
Drifting off. What else were they doing? Physically, what were they doing? Fidgeting. Anything else? What else were they doing? Getting their phone out, exactly. And they were looking at their watches, looking across to see reactions. There's two messages there. The first message is, look at your audience all the time. I can tell who's bored in this audience. Yes, Hannah. All right. Seriously, I can tell by your reactions if you're being engaged. And I also can tell some of your mindset as well, whether or not you're open to listening to it, or you might know it already. And that's interesting as well, and that's for another day. But the other big message is, it's a Swedish word, and I might need just to check this one. It is lagon, L-A-G-O-N. It isn't a piece of furniture from IKEA, or it might well be, but what it means is that just enough. And it's a concept for life as well, that not too little, not too much. And when it comes to public speaking and addressing audience, it should never be too much. You're far better having a little bit less. But try and give them just enough. Just enough. And that is a good place to sort of wind up. So, what we've seen that, you know, had the illustration there of very much around of always be prepared, care about your audience. Also, use what's around you. So remember, Joel played the piano, and he gave a fantastic introduction to us there. Do you want to give Joel another clap? Yeah. And then finally, we learnt about our treasure, that the treasure is in us. It's just about unearthing it. Everyone's got that skill set. Everyone in this room is a fantastic speaker. And that's without a shadow of a doubt. Everyone is. And we learned about our treasure. Then we talked about knowledge, making sure not only we know our subject, but we know everything else about when we're going to give our talk. And then we talked about being confidently authentic. And that is so important. And the last thing we spoke about was generosity. Because there's been many quotes about generosity and everything else, but it's really, there's a great quote by a guy called Pablo, and he talks about wherever your heart is, that is where your treasure is, and that's true. So always put your heart into a talk. And that's me. I'm Jonathan Leach, and thanks very much. Okay.